First of all, I would like to thank our organizers of this event that I have an opportunity to share Lithuanian experience in energy efficiency projects. I'm going to start with a short presentation on modernization of public infrastructure, public buildings, using ESCO model, which is actually ESCO-based PPP project. Then I'm going to move on and present the current ongoing tender of Panevėžys street lighting system modernization and rehabilitation. So when I talk about and I think about modernization of public infrastructure in Lithuania, it kind of resembles a hero's journey, which you can see defined in this slide, because it shares the most components. First of all, it was a call for adventure. Then, of course, there was an external aid factor. Then, of course, we faced a lot of problems. Of course, then there were revelations. And finally, it worked out. But still, we're at the same point where we started, because the program is ongoing. So, it started all like 5 years ago, I think, with the Energy Efficiency Directive and its targets. And it's an implementation into Lithuania. In order to meet its targets, well, to renovate 3% per annum of the total central governmental building space, Lithuanian government somehow had to fill this investment gap of 90 million. At the same time, it was realized that state entities cannot borrow money, or at least this opportunity to lend money is limited due to fiscal discipline requirements. At that time, European Bank for Reconstruction and Development offered ELANA support, under which a study was prepared, which suggested using ESCO model for renovation of public infrastructure. So it was a basis to start a national program for renovation of central buildings. Of course, there were suggestions made to extend the program to street lighting and municipality buildings, but at first it was decided to set up a national renovation program for central government buildings, because it was thought that it would be easier to build a pipeline from the closest recipients and owners, so central government. The Minister of Energy then adopted this legal act, prepared it, which was then approved by the Lithuanian government. At the second stage, standard procurement documentation was drafted and prepared, coordinated with private parties and with other interested parties like state institutions. Of course, then it was decided that due to the small scale of the projects, of each individual project, general PPP framework is too cumbersome for their implementation. So there were made some exemptions from the general PPP framework in order to make the process easier. And of course, the pilot program was launched in order to test the standard documentation, how it works, and to build a basis for and kind of build a leverage factor that would ignite the whole process and would encourage other institutions to take these projects and implement them. So, challenges and temptations. Of course, at first we had problems with the experience. on the project owner basis, because it's still PPP, though it's simplified procedure, but when you talk with each individual institution about negotiated procedure, well, they do not have experience. When you say, we're going to implement this project under an ESCO model, they say, what is ESCO model? We do not get a rationale behind it. Why we are using functional technical specification, because in these projects we did not require from the private party anything except for the only requirement was to reach C class, energy efficiency class. So due to the fact that the proposals of the tenders were rated according to cost of savings, no other requirements ought to be introduced. So, of course, as I mentioned, the other major obstacle was small scope of the projects, because for the market to be interested, you need to have a capex investment of at least 2 million. Each individual public building renovation project amounts capex of only $500,000, well, in some cases just above 1 million. So it was really hard to attract private participants to participate in these ESCO-based PPP projects. Of course, another problem was inconsistent pipeline. And it's related with other fact that all, I think, institutions were used to renovate by using subsidies. And now we say, you wouldn't get subsidy here, you're going to use ESCO model. Of course, we had some instruments put in place, like loans with 2% interest, but still all the institutions that we offered to implement projects under this model said, well, but we can get subsidy and buy conventional construction works. Why should we enter into a 10-year contract with a private party? We cannot manage the public procurement procedures by ourselves. We have to trust like external consultants, use standard documents, and we do not want that because we are not owner of our project anymore. So that was one of the major issues, yeah. And because there were, at that time, there were no mandatory requirement to participate in the program, it was really hard to convince users of the public buildings to participate in the program and launch this public procurement. Yeah, so long payoff period. It was counted that, well, from the savings, the investment from the savings could be compensated like over 25 years in average. So it was suggested that a subsidy for a capex subsidy should be introduced to shorten this payback period to 10 or 15 years, because contract period is 10 years. And when you shorten the contract period, then of course yearly payments paid by the state grows higher. But at that time it was decided not to offer a capex subsidy and to go like with only simple loan facility. So that was another factor which deterred the public sector institutions to participate in the program. Then, of course, we had a problem that most of the projects and most of the buildings do not only require energy efficiency investments, but because they are cultural heritage objects or due to special use of these buildings, for instance, if it is a concert hall, they also need additional investments. So we had to decide how to deal with these projects. And at that time it was decided not to implement these projects because they are like too difficult to manage and implement according to the procurement procedure. Of course, in procurement limitations, if you want to merge some objects into one, like for instance, to announce a procurement for a lot of 10 buildings, our public procurement office said no, because then you limit competition and it's not viable. Please announce tender for each individual project, then we get a small project scope and it's not interesting for private parties. So that was an innovation. And of course, then we sort of decided that we need and would like to have like really go for a short track procedure to go at a very simple by a very simple way, for instance, like by sort of making cost-benefit analysis at a program basis, which at that time was not available. We were somehow trying to avoid this general PPP framework. Well, of course, then we have an issue whether this project is like of a value to public sector, whether we wouldn't breach all the procurement procedures, and it was decided to only to amend this general framework not significantly, but to allow some simplification of the procedures. Of course, then we came to the revelation that there are some key factors that needs to be met in order to achieve a success. Of course, we need a close cooperation. When you implement such a project, you have a short timeline, and you have still to have energy audit, you have to have investment project, at least simplified one or a standardized one, and then of course you have to have tailor-made procurement documents for each individual building, because even if you are using a standard document package, it's not possible due to specific features of each individual building. For instance, in one building, the roof is leaking, and it is a mandatory requirement that has to be put into the technical specifications in order for the building to be functional, you know. Cooperation between Ministry of Energy, Energy Agency, Central Project Management Agency, agency responsible for financing of these projects, for issuing of these loans with 2% interest, was a key factor to achieve a success. And of course, you had to individually approach each owner and user of a building and work with him, with their public procurement team, in order to explain everything beforehand, that the project procedures further on goes smoothly. And of course, the constant pipeline. It is necessary to have a constant pipeline in order to announce it publicly, to inform the market about the buildings that you would like to renovate, so that they could beforehand estimate when and in what amount of capex projects will be announced and tendered. Yeah. So, of course, under the program now, because it is a current program, it's still ongoing, we have 94 million allocated for renovation of central governmental buildings, and of course, in addition, though the program or ESCO model is still not applicable to municipality buildings, 50 million is allocated for municipalities. So probably in the future, the program could be extended to municipalities as well. Okay, the result of 3 years of work with the program is 12 contracts signed, so it's quite a good result with a capex value of 7 million. Taking into consideration that these are small projects, it's quite okay, I think. Now we have simplified the fast-track procedure for the approval of social cost-benefit analysis. According to laws, Central Project Management Agency has to evaluate applications within 10 days. I'm not sure whether it's possible in practice, but we learn it. Now we have also CapEx subsidy of 20% available, which would shorten payoff period of these projects. And of course, now we have mandatory requirements for central government to participate in this program, or which means to renovate the buildings they use, or to give away these buildings to central asset manager of a state. Of course, when talking about potential, we are talking about approximately 250 buildings yet not renovated, with potential savings of 37 gigawatt hours. So what's next? Of course, the first thing that needs to be done is raising awareness that there is such a program, that public building owners can renovate buildings under it, and that they need to do this, because now it's mandatory. And still, a lot of public building owners do not know that if they do not renovate their buildings, they have to give them away. So raising awareness. Of course, to simplify all the procedure, we should not engage into financial planning of each individual project, like on a PPP scale, you know, because probably we should estimate social cost-benefit analysis as at the program basis, and do not require investment project for each of the building. Then, of course, it should be thought about extending the program to municipality buildings, because there is great need for investments there. Still, fiscal discipline requirements limit municipalities to borrow money to renovate schools, children gardens, and other public infrastructure. So probably it should be extended to municipality buildings. And of course, it could be utilized also for street lighting projects, because these projects, whole renovation of the street lighting infrastructure can achieve really high savings, energy savings, and it is the same principle playing there. ESCO-based model could be really applicable in street lighting, as I would show in other example of Panevėžys street lighting system rehabilitation project. When we go into details of these projects, the contract period is 10 years. The private party is asked to operate, to renovate the building and maintain it for the whole contract period, for the guaranteed period. And also, private party has an obligation to ensure guaranteed savings each year of the contract. So if a private party fails to achieve these guaranteed savings, then he is penalized. Okay, so now about Panevėžys street lighting project. So it is an ESCO-based model PPP project. Its object is to rehabilitate Panevėžys street lighting system and to operate and maintain it for the period of 15 years. Main project features. Number of luminaries is above 7,000. Estimated project value is 11 million. So the system has to be renovated and modernized within 24 months. And then promised guaranteed savings have to be secured for up to 13 years till the end of the contract period. So the winning bid gonna be selected for the highest savings for the lowest price. We do not require any specific, we do not set any specific requirements. This procurement is conducted under functional specification, and there is only one simple rule for the comparison of tenders. It's cost of savings. The higher the savings, the lower the price, the higher the evaluation. And of course, official deadline to express interest is 29th of this month. So if your clients or the company you represent are interested in this program, in this project, you can find the technical specification and other procurement documents in the link presented below. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Felix, maybe, are there any questions from the audience? I just wanted then to check with you, do I understand correctly, for the last project which is currently undergoing, does that mean that there is only focus on the costs and savings, or how do you put technical features and quality and previous track record into perspective? Because otherwise it's that you need to, the value for money issue is always in
yes,
our
of course we require the would-be private party to have significant experience in the field. We set the minimum qualification requirements. Of course, we set minimum technical requirements as well. So we get quite we get good quality luminaries and other infrastructure, but besides this, we do not ask any specific functionalities, or we do not set any specific requirements. We just say that you know the market, you know what would work best in this lighting system. We give you time to get acknowledged it, and please estimate how much you can save and how much it would cost us. That's it.
Out of curiosity, how long did it take the time to prepare a technical specification? Because I guess this is like quite a substantial exercise as well.
Yeah, it took about 2 years, from feasibility stage to preparation of procurement documents with all the approvals of Central Project Management Agency, city municipality, and so on. So it took at least around 2 years.
Yeah, that's a long time period. But anyway, good luck for your project.
Okay.